And now for our feature presentation.
Before I actually share my thoughts on Elemental, I want to talk about the short that plays before the movie, Carl's Date, which sees Carl Ferguson getting ready for his new date alongside Doug. This short is slow paced, but it helps this a lot by building up the sweetness factor. It's also beautifully told and feels like an epilogue for the Up film. The element of Carl and Ellie having a wonderful marriage together and how that would get Carl nervous to even go out with someone else tugs at the heartstrings. While it didn't make me cry, it was hauntingly sweet and one of the best Pixar shorts in recent memory. Too bad the actual movie couldn't top this short, but hold up. It was a good movie, but also hold up again, it was just a lackluster Pixar movie. Elemental is about 4 factions of elements living in Element City: wind, air, fire, and water. Ember, a flame, and Wade, who is a water guy, start a romance despite the fact that water and fire don't mix. The animation of Elemental is phenomenal. Yes, Spider-Verse will end up being the best looking animated film this year, but the character designs of Ember, Wade, and the other fire and water residents is incredibly fun to witness. The animators used a lot of squash and stretch on the characters, and you could tell there was tons of dedication to creating these characters that must have taken a really long time to bring to life. It's always fascinating watching the ripples on Wade's hair move, or whenever Ember is sad her fire gets thinner than paper, or when she's rageful her fire spreads larger. She molds objects and bends and shapes this into whatever she wants, and it's oddly satisfying seeing this. The bubble particles that float through Wade's body, and then whenever they get near each other, steam comes off Ember and Wade's water boils and begins popping. It's all done perfectly, and without a doubt Pixar's best work of all time when it comes to character design and animation. This is Pixar's first ever full-blown rom-com. Now for the romance aspect, it's the second best aspect of this film. The chemistry between the two characters of Wade and Ember is fleshed out gracefully, especially Ember. Ember and Wade are both likable characters, so the movie's slow pace and the natural way this movie builds up their romance is sweet. While we don't get to see that much insight on Wade's backstory except for a few lines, it ultimately feels like Ember's movie, and it kind of makes their romance a tad uneven in the story department, but it's still nice overall. And the fact that they are water and fire helped their romance become unique and a lot more memorable after seeing the movie. It doesn't break new mold with the storytelling of romance though, but the relationship these characters have is weirdly sweet despite their obvious opposites. Now the comedy part of the rom-com is extremely hit or miss. This may be one of Pixar's most unfunniest movies. There are a few jokes that are executed well that got a laugh out of me, especially when it comes to Wade and how he interacts with fire. But other than that, I either found myself smiling or just kind of sitting there. The story is basically about Ember falling in love with Wade while deciding if she should take over the shop her racist father owns. Yes, I said racist. A movie about elements has some racial themes, and while I was hoping we would get that Pixar story spice and some new insight on this topic, it never really happens. I knew the story would have characters hating other elements, and it's definitely here for some racial underlying tones and some immigration stuff. It helps the story become memorable outside of the animation and main characters. Despite the immigration and racial stuff, the story is bare bones, and while I wasn't wanting something big and epic and just a small story about 2 lovebirds and their opposites, we get that here, but its creativity in the plot is driven by the aspects of their fire and water and not the actual story itself, which is kind of a letdown. Overall, Elemental is a fine Pixar movie. The story is forgettable, but the animation, characters, and romance helps this movie have some memorability of its own. It's a good movie, but if you're looking for that new Pixar ingredient that they always add to their films and makes it unique, you definitely won't find this here. If you're not satisfied by the movie though, you can always just play Fire Boy and Water Girl.